Chancellor Peterson, President Naylor, members of the faculty, parents, families, especially the graduates. It is a great honor for me to receive this doctorate degree from your esteemed university, and it is also a timely honor because I've been waiting for more than 40 years for the opportunity to consummate my PhD degree with an official ceremony and this is a difficult confession for me to make, I skipped my graduation ceremonies, all three of them. See, for skipping my bachelor degree ceremony, I should be forgiven because I was on board of a ship going to America. But when the time came to receive my PhD degree, it happened exactly on the same evening that I got a master's degree in physics in different university, and I couldn't make up my mind between the two. So at the end of the day, I decided to stay home and had it delivered by mail. This was my only teenage rebellion. Very fashionable in the 1960s. Who cares for ceremonies and symbols and caps and gowns and speeches? It is knowledge that counts, right? Wrong. I have another confession to make today, a secret that I kept even from my wife. I truly regret not having gone to my commencement in 1965, which in some mysterious way caused me to feel that my degree is somewhat fake or improperly earned, even though the diploma itself is properly signed and well encased, I'm sure, in some safe drawer at home. And I should have known better. Coming from computer science, the science of symbols, I should have known how important symbols are to the workings of the human mind and to the workings of society. I should have known that in all primitive societies, initiations from childhood to adulthood are consummated not by signing a document, not even by passing a test, by a ritual communal dance with feather heads and dragon masks and all the tribal chiefs and village elderly and women and children present. And I should have known that the neural architecture of modern men is not much different than that of the hunting caveman. I know better now. I know that it is not the signature on your diploma that counts, but the statement of deservedness that you will be making by stepping up to this stage and receiving your degree in the presence of your teachers, families, and peers who will bear witness to and cheerfully approve of your claim for accomplishment. This is what counts. This is what you will remember, and that is why we put on these funny caps and gowns, so you will retain a visual memory of this tribal dance. Why? Because it is only through a communal testimony that your accomplishment becomes embedded in a relevant and meaningful context, larger than yourself, and it is through this context of extended tribal community that you will be able to apply what you have learned in a way that would make it meaningful, honorable, and rewarding to you for the rest of your life. So what is this tribal community that I'm talking about and that you are joining today? The cap and gown that I wear unveil its name. It is a tribe of scientific freedom fighters. This cap and gown were first worn in the University of Padua in Italy in the 13th or 14th century the place where Galileo later taught and where he invented the telescope in 1608 and later discovered the amazing fact that physics listens to the language of algebra in 1632. And Galileo is one of my heroes because to me he represents the essence of scientific pursuit. Just to have the illusion that I am emulating Galileo in this funny outfit sends chills in my spine. Galileo always reminds me of the inextricable connection between science and freedom. How? Because Galileo showed that to be a scientist, you must have both respect for the truth and the audacity to believe that you can find it. This might sound trivial. Science, by definition, is about truth, so what's all this stuff about freedom? It is not so trivial. Truth can be elusive, even in our times, covered with a heavy fog of fear and hidden agenda. It is only after the murder of my son that I came to appreciate how hard it is, even in our age of internet, to stay the course of truth. Just 2 weeks ago, Abdurrahman Wahid, the former president of Indonesia, made an interesting observation in the Wall Street Journal. The countries in which Holocaust denial is most rampant, he said, also tend to be the ones that are most economically backward and politically repressive. Now, what is the connection, you might ask, between Holocaust denial and repressiveness? Is lack of freedom the cause of truth denial, or the other way around? The idea is, says Abdurrahman Wahid, those who are dishonest when it comes to the truth of the past are hardly in position to reckon honestly with the problems of the present. And what Galileo showed us is that you cannot have one without the other. Scientific truth demands scientific honesty, and scientific honesty demands honesty throughout all thinking. Do you remember 1,000 years of zero scientific progress through the Middle Ages? The conventional explanation is that the church was repressive of scientific discourse, but this could not be the whole story. There was no repressive church in the Muslim world, and Muslim scientists had access to all the best universities, the best libraries at the time, well-founded observatories, and all the writings of the Greek philosophers. So why didn't a genius like Galileo emerge in Cordoba or Alexandria or Baghdad in the 8th or 9th century AD? Why was science held back in almost total stagnation for 1,000 years until, as though by miracle, the genius of Copernicus, Vieta, and Galileo emerged in Europe, dark Europe of all places? Can you imagine where mankind would be today had the Renaissance and the scientific revolution taken place in the 5th century instead of the 15th? What Galileo showed us is that permission to read, to translate, to observe, and use fancy equipment is not enough. The development of science requires a restless and rebellious spirit. A spirit that puts an individual in the center of the universe and proclaims, I don't care about Aristotle and his fancy books. I want to see the 2 rocks falling from the Tower of Pisa here today, and I want to see it in my own eyes. In other words, what Galileo showed us is that you cannot truly search for the truth unless you are free to rebel against all the detractors of truth, especially conventional wisdom, peer pressures, sacred cows, wishful thinking, revered authority, and hidden agenda. In short, free to perceive yourself as an agent in control of your destiny, not an object submissive to the forces of fate. Remarkably, this perception of agency, called scientific philosophy, is not always taken for granted, even today. The West is morally bankrupt, declares Professor Tariq Ramadan, the daring star of European intellectuals. Take from the West all the science and technology, says Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi to his Al Jazeera listeners. But you must reject Western philosophy because it is corrupt at its roots by the pagan philosophies of Greeks and Rome. Sorry to disappoint you, Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, but you cannot have science and technology without Western philosophy of freedom, honesty, and individual agency. It has been tried before for 1,000 years and failed. And sorry to disappoint you, Professor Ramadan, but Western civilization is mighty proud of its values and achievement, and bankruptcy is not in its vocabulary. The spirit of the West shines brightly today through the works of hundreds of humble, yet courageous and principled young scientists and engineers who are graduating from your great university. This spirit is rooted indeed in the skeptical inquiry of the pagan Socrates and the moral clarity of a biblical Jeremiah and the rebellious spirit of Galileo. But behold, it shows no sign of bankruptcy or decline. It is, in fact, the only beacon of hope and moral courage for humanity today. So I congratulate you all today on joining the extended family of Socrates, Galileo, and Einstein. I welcome you to the tribal dance of science, the dance of freedom and humanity. Thank you.